I'm Zoe from Eurogamer, and I've got to be honest with you, I have a severe Skyrim addiction. I own it on way more platforms than is strictly necessary, and, like a bunch of you watching this, have poured hundreds of hours into it since it first came out in 2011. Back then, Skyrim's demo at 2011's QuakeCon was so epic that it made a pregnant woman go into labour. Yeah, I know. Impressive or what? So, when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, like many of you, I'm going to sign away months of my life to play it. Yet it was only last year that Bethesda showed us a 36-second glimpse of Elder Scrolls 6 at E3. But, although we technically have a trailer now, the game won't be released until after Starfield, Bethesda's sci-fi RPG, which is coming out God knows when, to be honest. But in those 9 years since Skyrim's release, game design has come a long way, so we're expecting a lot from Elder Scrolls 6. So much, in fact, that I decided to make a video about it. So here's the 8 things we want to see in Elder Scrolls 6. To start, co-op is the top of most people's wish list for Elder Scrolls 6. Playing Skyrim alone was one hell of a lot of fun, but having the option to venture across its world with a buddy, or enemy if you're into surprise, spontaneous PvP with the aforementioned buddy, would have made it extra special. There's nothing quite like taking on a boss with a good friend and feeling like your teamwork has truly accomplished something. Exploring an eerie dungeon with some added backup to warn you of sneaky Draugr, or simply having some companionship when you're idling away the hours exploring. Co-op is such a basic thing nowadays for video games that even attempting to justify it comes across as incredibly simple, but I'm gonna try anyway. Co-op contradicts the stereotype that video games isolate us from each other. Look at all the communities that have sprung up for games like Destiny and Fallout 76. They come together to build engaging, self-driven tasks, quests and events. Not that the Elder Scrolls 6 should be online only like Destiny, of course, as I think most of us can agree that the online Elder Scrolls experience is in safe hands thanks to Elder Scrolls Online. Playing a game like Elder Scrolls 6 in co-op would also add that crucial element of discoverability, shut up, that's definitely a word, as you and your buddy can show each other your favourite spots and secrets that you might otherwise overlook. So, yeah, co-op in Elder Scrolls please. While I'm talking about bonding and relationships and everything wholesome, Elder Scrolls 6 could really benefit from more advanced romance options. Marriage in Skyrim was pretty much a case of wearing a pretty necklace and then bam, your lover of choice was usually up for tying the knot. This is exactly how easy it is.
Well, yes. Why wouldn't I be? Are you interested in me? It's settled then.
Do you agree to be bound together in love, now and forever? Under the authority of Mara, the divine of love, I declare this couple to be wed.
So, marriage felt shallow to say the least. I'm not saying you need the ability to have marital arguments after the wedding to add that extra bit of realism, but having at least a handful of quests to build a relationship with the object of your affections would give marriage the emotional weight it needs in Elder Scrolls 6. I'm thinking something along the lines of Mass Effect's loyalty missions. They had you gradually getting to know your teammates, learning about them and their past along the way, so by the end of it, you actually do care about everyone on your ship. As well as the usual process of giving the right kinds of gifts, having missions in Elder Scrolls 6 where you have to prove your worth would make marriage feel like an investment, rather than a box to tick to get an achievement. That could involve something like defeating someone who wronged your beloved's family, or helping them achieve a life goal. Anything that rounds them out as a person, really. Then, once you've earned their trust, marriage could be on the cards. Who knows, you could also have post-marriage missions where you have to keep your relationship alive, or risk them leaving you. That might involve your spouse becoming a companion on your adventuring, watching your actions and judging you just like companions in Fallout 4. Do something especially heinous, or not horrible enough if you marry someone like Maven Blackbriar, and they might ditch you for good, disgusted at what you've done. Speaking of companions, let's have some more advanced quests to win your companion's loyalty, shall we? However much I loved to hear Lydia's famous line,
I am sworn to carry your burdens.
I didn't really know what her personality was like, even after having her by my side for most of my first playthrough. Their history could be uncovered during your adventures, meaning that you're way more invested in their personal welfare. Maybe you'll even end up heartbroken when they get downed by a damn frost troll. Perhaps the more you learn about them, the better their attacks get as you level up together. Or there could even be an entire skill tree dedicated to managing your companion. Elder Scrolls isn't just about adventuring though. Despite the Hearthfire DLC, which allowed you to build your own mansion by collecting clay, wood and making iron hinges, it still felt shallow as there wasn't enough choice to make you truly feel like your home was unique enough to match your character's personality, whether you were a bone-loving necromancer or someone who appreciated the finer things in life. Elder Scrolls 6 is set to be a mammoth of a game, so having a section entirely devoted to a Sims-style outfitting and building of your house wouldn't be out of the question at all. In fact, in Elder Scrolls Online, you can change the wall decorations and furniture of your chosen abode, as long as you have the crowns to pay for them, which is way more customization than Skyrim ever had. Perhaps those features will work their way into Elder Scrolls 6. Though, if they do, having an optional snap-to-fit feature like in The Sims would be a godsend for anyone who needs to know something is aligned with a wall or table just right. And yeah, that includes me. Of course, fitting out your home and having the right characters by your side is important, but the main story needs to be really good as well. Skyrim's Civil War questline was mediocre at best. What it needed was more political intrigue and battles that actually felt like they mattered, instead of just being between two handfuls of generic fighters. There are some theories circulating on the internet that if Elder Scrolls 6 is called Redfall, which ZeniMax has recently trademarked, the game could be about a plague. Let me explain. One of the Daedric princes in Elder Scrolls is named Peryite. For those who might not know, Daedric princes are basically gods, and are more or less about as unpredictable as Greek gods. At best, they're morally ambiguous, and at worst, they're downright evil. Peryite is the Daedric Prince of Disease, so he has a tendency to infect his worshippers with all manner of illnesses. One of those illnesses gives his diseased followers red skin. During your travels in Skyrim, you'll meet the Afflicted, who worship Peryite, along with an afflicted refugee, who mentions returning to High Rock, which could be where Elder Scrolls 6 is set. If that's the case, this one Peryite worshipper could have begun a plague in High Rock. That disease might be ravaging the country, and it's one which turns skin red. Red skin, Redfall, see the connection? Having a plague as one of the key elements of a main story could make for some excellent missions. Trying to find a cure, exploring plague-ravaged cities to find a healer, maybe even bargaining with Peryite himself. But even if a plague isn't at the centre of Elder Scrolls 6, whatever the main story ends up being, it needs to be better than a lacklustre civil war. Elder Scrolls 6 would also benefit from way more varied destruction spells. Yeah, I know it's a specific branch of magic to pick up on, but having more ways to customise your spells would make it easier to create the mage of your dreams. Or nightmares, if you're into that. In Oblivion, you could even make your own spells, so in comparison, Skyrim's spells do seem quite basic. If Elder Scrolls 6 didn't include a custom spell option, it could always learn some lessons from Borderlands 3. Yep, I know it's an FPS, but Borderlands 3 has mixed up its skill tree by adding augments, which allow you to change how your action skills work by adding stuff like elemental damage, extra damage, or the ability to confuse enemies. You can see where I'm going with this, can't you? Having those small perks which change how your destruction spells work would make them about so much more than ice, electric, or fire damage. Fire spells could create an area of effect that makes low-level enemies flee from fear, that kind of thing. Obliterating your enemies into smithereens is one hell of a lot of fun. But when you're not fighting, the world itself has to be intriguing enough and interesting enough to warrant you spending a ton of time in there. Having more varied locations that go beyond forest, mountain and snow biomes would give Elder Scrolls 6 a sense of scale open world games really need. When you're walking across the land, having changing scenery around you makes you feel like you've travelled far, and on a simple level, prevents everything from getting too samey. Bethesda could take a leaf out of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild's book. That game has massively different locations, each with their own distinct aesthetic identity. There are tropics, woods, riverlands, barren mountains, snowy mountains, windy hills, dead ruined stretches of land, plains, deserts, and a frickin' volcano. So, to recap, Elder Scrolls 6 needs co-op, missions for your companion, better romance quests, more ways to customise your home, an engaging main storyline, varied destruction spells, and a bunch of aesthetically different locations. The last thing Elder Scrolls 6 needs is incredibly simple. It's the ability to have more than one ring on simultaneously. Because come on, being limited to one is just stupid. I have 10 fingers for a reason, goddammit! So, those are the 8 things that should be in Elder Scrolls 6. If you liked it, I have good news. There are plenty more videos from Eurogamer for you to watch, like the ones on the screen right now. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get notified when we churn out another video. And join me in keeping your fingers crossed for more Elder Scrolls 6 news sharpish.